Black Country New Road are finally here with a debut album. They have been around for quite a few years now. I feel like I've been hearing people talk about their live performances, their fantastic singles for God knows how long, and it's been a pretty long gap between when I did hear Sunglasses for the first time and this album. They basically wowed people instantly with that track and many other tracks too, and again, their live performances, they are similar to a band like Black Midi, who again were kicking around for a little while before they finally put out their debut album, but up until that point they had become a pretty well-known band amongst like UK concert goers as being a pretty insane band to see live, to the point where they eventually got on the Mercury Prize nomination list and performed live at a show that isn't usually hosting bands like that. I mean, their performance at that show was insane. I couldn't imagine what it must have been like if you're like in your 60s and you're flicking through the channels and Black Midi are just going insane on stage. Like what would an old lady say to that? She'd be like, turn that bloody racket off. They're obviously not the same band though. They are two separate bands, of course, but they do perform together live quite often and have made a name a name for themselves through performing with Black Midi. And the hype for this album has been pretty big. I think for a long time now people have been eager to hear new music from Black Country New Road. I've got to say as well, with this being a 6-track album, I'm kind of happy that I'd only heard Sunglasses up until this point. I don't know how I avoided all the other tracks, but they have released quite a few of these tracks and they've been out there circulating for a little while. So I don't know what it must be like if you have heard this album for the first time and you've already heard the other tracks as singles. Let me know in the comments if that has ruined your own experience with the album. I feel like for me, 6 tracks, and if I've heard like 3, maybe 4 of them already, I think maybe that would have potentially ruined the experience, but regardless, it hasn't, because I didn't hear all those tracks. And supposedly they had amended some of the lyrics and changed things around a little bit on some of the tracks anyway. So again, those changes not noticeable by me because I wouldn't have known what changes to look out for. So pretty much fresh going into this album, which is great. And yeah, I'm not here to beat around the bush. I'm not here to go against the current general consensus. I think they are definitely one of the most exciting rock bands coming out of the UK at the moment and are just nailing it with this album from the get-go, debut album, and they are instantly, right out the gate, coming through with so much confidence, and you feel as though you know exactly who they are already. Confidence coming out of this album is just kind of insane. Like, you just feel as though this band's been around for years and they are, you know, a well-established, huge stadium anthem filler band, but they're not. They're really at the start of their career. And you just can't tell. Like, the confidence is crazy to me. It's like Bianca Del Rio on Drag Race walking in and being like, well, I've won before I've already started because I'm just gonna slay this shit. And that's exactly what Black Country New Road have done here. The boldness of kicking off an album with an instrumental, I saw that as when I saw the track list, I was like, why have they done this? And then I clicked play, I was like, this is why they've done this. The jazzy punchiness to it is fantastic, and it's just such a cocky way to kick things off. Like, straight out the gate, they're like, we're just going to show you how good we can put together an instrumental. And it's like, damn it, they're right, they did do that. It sounds like a marching band is just coming through and taking over most of these tracks. There's like a jazziness running through this album actually, and there's a lot of members in Black Country New Road, so of course I think the range of instruments and the range of talents that each member brings is probably wider than I had originally realized. You swiftly move into Athens, France, which has a geographical error in the title, but also a math influence in the instrumental too. A math influence being the math rock era of like the 90s, totally reminds me of bands like, you know, American Football, maybe even some of the emo bands that were going in that direction too from that era. There's a really great dramatic swell to the instrumental on this. It actually hits the point where it feels like a Bond theme is about to start, like some really epic vocalist is about to come through and be like, a scaffold. It has that larger than life feel to it, and I think it sounds great. Honestly, it has such a class to it while also being a bit off kilter and a bit in your face. There's just so much going on, and yet they manage to combine so many things together and nothing feels out of place. I think it sounds great. The self-aware, sarcastic attitude of the singer comes through on the track Science Fair with that one particular line that stands out. Just gonna read it off here. Just to think I could have left the fair with my dignity intact and fled the stage with the world's second best Slint tribute act. Which is funny because, I mean, I assume anyone aware of post-rock will have caught the influence of post-rock on this track at the start. I mean, I was definitely getting a bit of Slint vibes from it, and even from the like kind of spoken wordy, talky vocals that come through on this album too. I love the way they're combining all of their influences, but yet at the same time, similar to Black Midi actually, they do sound fresh and unique. But I do have to wonder if there are people out there that are listening to this album and don't quite see that. I could imagine some people thinking it isn't that original, but even regardless of whether you think it is or it isn't, I'm just here for the music sounding great. And at the end of the day, I do think all of these tracks sound great. I love the way the complacent jazziness lingers at the end of this track too. Reminds me of like some bizarre John Zorn track, or even that weird band from like a while back called Little Women. I don't know where they went, but they had some mad instrumentals, some crazy instrumentals, like the farting horns that are blaring. It's pretty manic, but it sounds fantastic. Sunglasses being the track that I did know, and most people have come to know this band through. I think this is definitely their most famous song at this point. Again, great. I think the bizarre lyrics are just really cartoonish and kind of make me laugh at points actually. Look, I do attempt to come on camera to you guys and say what I think a song is about, but actually some of the lyrics on this song, I don't really know what he's talking about at all, and I kind of like it for that. I am invincible in these sunglasses, leave my daddy's job out of this. It definitely once again reads as sarcastic here. Maybe he's just taking the piss, just in a weird sort of way, reminded me of like Love It If We Made It by the 1975, where there's just, you know, all those random references to things on every other line. And then he randomly brings up Kanye on this track. Reminds me actually of like a couple arguing, like something you'd see on Coronation Street, and they're just like saying all kinds of shit to each other. Leave Kanye out of this. What's Kanye got to do with it? I didn't say Kanye did, I Deirdre. You daft cow, I'm gonna have you. Yeah. Not at all what they intended, I'm sure, but I'm just happy I think of that when I listen to this track, because it just makes me laugh. Track X is much more ballad-like. It's definitely the slowest track here, and then the vocals are way more restrained on this one. But it's kind of interesting how that then leads into Opus, which might have the most manic and twisted vocals on the whole thing. He kind of has like a weird gargling sort of King Cruel voice on this track, which I'm not sure if anyone else will hear that. But I don't mean musically King Cruel, by the way. I'm just talking about the vocals here. It reminds me of something like that, or maybe like Tom Waits. I love how much this instrumental sounds like just a jamming session, honestly. It really is just them letting loose, and the melody they come up with, I think, is great. They're ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. Bizarrely reminds me of a band I saw years ago, actually. They're called Hyde Park Brass, and they're from Leeds, and they just did cover songs of like the most random songs you could imagine, and again they just sound like they're having such a fun time jamming out. And they did the track I Like to Move It, Move It, I Like to Move It, Move It at the show, and yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. Like them coming up with that is just channeling that same sort of vibe. regardless though, it sounds great. The track overall is great. Maybe my favourite one here, I'm not sure. I could probably say that about a few tracks on this album. But, you know, regardless, I've been talking a while. I'm just here to say that, yeah, this is a super, super good, super great, fantastic debut release. And I'm glad to see they're getting so much love too. I'm sure the critical acclaim is just going to keep on ramping up for this band. And you know what? I think as good as what they've given us here, they could probably give us something even greater in the future. And that's the exciting thing about this band. Like, I don't think this is the best we're ever going to get. And I am looking forward to seeing where they're going to take us. 8 out of 10 from me, though. I think this is great. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got a new recommendation out of it too. You might not have heard of this band, but if you have, let me know what you think of this in the comments. I think I've just said that, but by the way, if I haven't already said, let me know what you think of this in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good day and goodbye.